Hey, good morning. That was like the most epic welcome video I have ever seen in my entire life of myself. Can I get a copy of that? That was really cool. Guys, I'm so honored to be here this morning. I mean it. I just feels like a great honor and a privilege to be able to be here, a part of this incredible series. Like Pastor Paul said, my name is Jeremy, and I am a husband to Rachel. I'm a father of an 18-year-old daughter who is freshman year in college right now. She's at Judson University just north of Chicago. So as you can imagine, her mom and I are feeling it. First one to leave the nest. But I've also got two sons who are with me here this morning. I have spent the vast majority of my life, almost my whole adult life, in ministry. I started off as that church kid who, spent every moment I could in church when the doors were open. And then by the time I got into youth group, God and my church started inviting me here and there to do things. In fact, some of my aunts and uncles are here this morning who also went to church with me back in Oregon on the West Coast where I grew up. And I was singing in the choir, played in the orchestra. I don't know if you knew this, but churches used to have orchestras. We were like a super charismatic Assemblies of God church when I was growing up. So I used to get to play the shofar every now and then. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Let's go. And it was great. Loved it. And since that time, have had just a real sense that God is leading me to be a part of ministry. So I've been able to be a pastor and a church planter and missionary. And today I get to be a counselor. Like Paul mentioned, I work with a lot of men and couples and pastors and ministry leaders who are going through some rough moments, and also get to work with a nonprofit organization that is geared toward men. But enough about me. Just really, really glad to be here. I'm grateful to Pastor Paul, also to Pastor Chris, for the opportunity to be here. And I want you to know Thrive Church in this area has such an important legacy in the story of faith and the story of God and his people in this part of Missouri. And I've just been aware of that ever since I moved here about 7 or 8 years ago, just knowing that this house, this place has been used by God in so many incredible ways over the years. And I know that your story is far from done. So how fun to get to be part of this new series that we're launching today. And today we're going to talk about men, and I think next Sunday you guys are going to talk about women, and then the Sunday after that you're going to talk about marriages. And ultimately what we're talking about is the design of God for people. So we're talking about the design of God today for men, and later we're going to talk about the design of God for women next week, and then you're going to talk about couples the week after that. And at the end of the day, what we're saying is this is how things are supposed to be. When God thought of you, this is what he was thinking. And when God decided that he was going to invest his glory and his image and his goodness and put it in people, this is how he was going to do it. And when he decided that he was going to invest and make a relationship possible on planet Earth that demonstrated the glory and the goodness and the love of God in marriage, this is how he was going to do it, through marriage. And so the next 3 weeks, we're just talking about you and who you are and who God has always intended for you to be and how he has intended for you to demonstrate his glory. We can see it right away in the book of Genesis, in Genesis chapter 1, right at the beginning of creation. We read this after God has created everything that was, the heavens and the earth, and there was light, and there was, he filled the seas and the skies and the earth with life, and then he created man and he created woman. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.'" And then if you're looking in your Bible, you can see right here, this part is usually inset a little bit. It's because it's a poem, or it's like a song that says, "So God," celebrating the end of the 6 days of creation. "So God," it's the pinnacle of creation, "created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." I understand that today in 2025, there is a lot of confusion about gender in the world. I get that. And I think that that is the case because evil hates it. Because what we're talking about is the glorious image of God that he invested specifically in men and separately, specifically in women. You see, the thing is, everything I do in the context of my gender. I do it in the context of the gender that I was born with. I do it as a man. In fact, from before I was even born, when I was still in my mother's womb, God saw fit when he was shaping me. He said, okay, we're going to make a boy here. So I'm going to take this part of my character as God. I'm going to take this part of my nature so that I can be glorified on earth. I'm going to invest it in this little boy in the womb. And so I'm going to, while I was still growing in there was this wash of testosterone that God just ordained that went over my brain and my body. And it changed the way that I think. Makes it where my wife doesn't understand anything I'm talking about because it changed the way, it makes it where I can't do two things at once. It makes it where I totally can't multitask. If I'm talking and driving, you don't want to be in the car with me because something about what happened when that washed over my mind, it changed the way that I think. It changed the frame and the structure of my body. It changed the way that I perceive the world because God wanted it to be that way. And so as I come into the world, it's not like I think about the world and every now and then I think about it like a guy does, that I talk and every now and then I talk like a guy does. No, everything I do, every part of me, the way that I see the world, the way that I interact with the world, the way that I think about relationships in life, the way that I talk, the way that I act, it is all connected to the way that I experience the world as a man. Every cell in my body is male. Every part of me, every thought I have is male. The reason for that is because my masculinity and the way that it comes out of me is the goodness and the image and the glory of God. Women, that's true for you too, but you get to talk about that next week. Today's for the boys. This is what Jesus said, and I quoted it earlier, and I want to bring the scripture back up for us. Matthew chapter 5, verse 14, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world, and a city on a hill should not ever be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. And in the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Men, what I want you to know today is that your maleness is a part of everything you do. It is absolutely threaded in, woven in. It is the filter, it's the lens through which everything in your life happens, and that gives God great pleasure. And that is a good thing for the world. You see, one thing, just as we get started this morning, I just want to say right off the bat, masculinity is not toxic. It's not toxic. Masculinity is not toxic when it is whole. It's not, it's the glory of God. So of course the world is trying to convince us that it's toxic because it's the goodness and the glory and the image of God. But it's not toxic. I understand that there are broken and uninitiated and unfathered men who can destroy societies. I get that. I understand that there are men who have run amok. But when we're talking about whole masculinity, we're talking about something that we need more of in the world and not less. In fact, I have sat with so many women who are brilliant teachers and thinkers and writers, speakers, who have said to me, "Jeremy, please, as you go around the United States, as you go in the world, as you talk to men all over the place, please, we need men who know who they are and who aren't afraid to bring their masculinity to the world." And so we understand, this is the image of God. And I want to say also, I really love the way that God made us as men. It is so much fun. I can't tell you how often I'm so glad I'm a boy. I'm sorry, ladies. I just really like the way God made me. It's so much fun. I have two sons, and they're the epitome of this. Last summer, Sorry, boys. Last summer, my wife and I are just hanging out in the house. My son's had a couple friends over, and all of a sudden the boys come marching in the house. It was a summer night. The lightning bugs are out and the frogs are chirping, and it's like one of those beautiful summer nights. My boys come marching in the house, and none of them, and their friends, none of them have their shirts on. They're totally covered in mud. They're totally filthy, look nasty. And I look over at my older son, and he has frog guts, like draped over his shoulder, over his chest. And he's like, "Hey, Mom, look what I got." Apparently the boys had been out frog gigging. And then, so in one hand, they all had several frog legs that they had just harvested from the community pond. Hopefully the HOA was not paying attention that day. So, and they came in and they're like, "Mom, let's get the oil, let's get the flour, let's fry these suckers up." They were disgusting, but we cooked them up. It's just the way the boys are, and I love it. You know, one family member of mine said, if you have one boy by himself, he's got one mind, like one brain. If you get two boys together, between them, you've got about half a brain. You get more than two boys together, there's no brains at all. It's just wild. You know what's gonna happen when you get, and I tell you, you don't have to wonder what happens when you get boys together. Just this past January, I was with a group of men, and these are all men at least 35 years old and older. We were in Scotland. We're in the Isle of Skye. It's so beautiful. We're walking, it's January, so it's about 35, 40 degrees up in the Highlands of Scotland. And we go to this place called the Fairy Pools, which is just this amazing, beautiful place where you look down and there's these deep pools of water and it's raining, and you can imagine Scotland in the wintertime. So we're standing there looking, and all of a sudden, shoes start to come off, and shirts get thrown off, and pants get thrown off, and suddenly there's grown men jumping in the fairy pools in the middle of Scotland, just their skivvies, 40-degree weather. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. And all the other Europeans were like, those Americans. And I'm just like, you know what? It's so fun to be a boy. It's so much of that is the way that God made us. When we do men's events and we rent ATVs or side-by-sides, we always pay extra for the insurance because we know it's going to happen. In fact, a couple of years ago, we had taken some just real cool razors, like some ATVs up in the mountains in Colorado, and I'm going a million miles an hour myself. I come around a corner, and I see this ATV almost completely flipped over. And this big old boy from Mississippi, one of our guests who had come on the trip, was just laughing his head off with another buddy because they had just flipped the thing. And I was like, yep, that's why we pay for the insurance, because we know how we are. And what if that is the glory of God? What if within that is the goodness and the image and the nature and the character of God? And I know that there's more. Men are made for more than just horsepower and adrenaline. I get that. In fact, some of you men sitting in the room may not really strongly identify with a lot of what I just said. Maybe that doesn't totally feel like you. That's okay too. But God's design for us is amazing. And so in 1 Corinthians, we start to see actually what it means for a man to be a whole man. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, Paul is just exhorting the readers, and he says, listen, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. Micah chapter 6, verse 8 has another exhortation for us. He says, he, meaning God has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice and to love kindness. I know that spent a lot of time talking about all the fun stuff that we get to do as men, but I'll tell you, when I get to be around groups of whole men, it's amazing what happens. Sitting around a campfire, the big group of men, and I just see over there's a bunch of guys laughing and cutting up. Over there's some men who are strategizing and talking about how to get funding to this ministry in Kenya and the slums of Nairobi that we support. Over there are men who have tears in their eyes, and they're praying over a brother whose marriage is falling apart. Over here, we've got some like cowboys. This is real. The true story. Cowboys who always come to our stuff, but they're also like poets. They're cowboy poets. They sit around reading their poetry to each other. It's just so cool what happens when whole men come together. You see, there is something about like the way that God designed us to be defenders and protectors and lovers and providers and creators and fathers and brothers and sons and so much more. It's so powerful. And there are two words that I want to introduce to you that I think encompasses, in general, like how God made men to be. You see, God made men to reflect his strength and his tenderness. Strong and tender. I think if we could boil it down, the nature of God that he invested in us, his strength and his tenderness. You see, strength is what happens when I have a settled contentment in my identity as a son. Let me say that again. Strength is what naturally happens. It's what naturally flows out of me when I have a settled contentment in my identity as a beloved son. And when I talk about strength, I am talking about young David who was unafraid to defend his father's sheep and take out the lion and take out the bear. I'm talking about that same young man who just a little bit later was unafraid to stand in front of Goliath, who was defying the God that David loved, and to stand in front of that giant and say, I come to you in the name of the Most High God, and today the birds will feast on your flesh, and the wild animals will devour you because I'm about to kill you and cut off your head. Like that kind of strength that led David even to win battles and expand the kingdom and be the king of Israel. Some of the words that we use all the time in the ministry that I help lead around what this means, it is, I'm talking about courage, which is raising my hand to do hard things and to lean into difficulty and to be the one that stands up for the person who needs defense. It's the courage to step in when evil is trying to be felt and seen, and when people are being harmed. Courage means I do hard things. It is protective leadership and excellent action. I know some of you, if you're like me, when you hear those words like courage, protective leadership, excellent action, anybody else just feel that like, yeah, that's what I want to be. Like, that feels right. Strength is when a man works hard to provide for his family. It's when he stands firm in the face of adversity, when he exudes a quiet confidence. He protects and defends his home or his nation. He moves toward hard things and not away from them. He engages in necessary conflict with confidence and with kindness. The man who has this strength that I'm talking about is the one who is the reflection of our God, who is fierce and wild and powerful. And he is dangerous to his foes. And he is unafraid, and he knows who he is. And I want to go back to the fact that our strength as men is innate. It's innate. What that means is it's already there. It's already there. Yes, it needs to be trained up. Yes, it needs to be fathered. Yes, it needs to be grown up. But our strength is something that, when given the right atmosphere to grow, it is already inside of us. You see, strong is what happens when we're settled in the fact that I'm a beloved son, I'm well loved, like there's a place for me, I belong in the company of men, I understand who I am, I'm a beloved son of God, and so my strength is just going to be naturally available for the world because God invested it in me from before time began. It was always his plan. And so I know as a son of God who's filled with the Holy Spirit, who's loved and nothing can separate me from that love. I'm settled and I'm strong. Now, tenderness is also a part of how God designed us. And tenderness is desire that moves toward love. God made me to be strong and tender. My tenderness is desire that moves toward love. David, the same one who slayed Goliath, was a man full of longing, full of desire. If you read the Psalms that he wrote, you can see over and over again his love and his ache of God. There was music and worship in his bones. He was a poet and a worship leader and a musician and a lover, and he wasn't afraid to dance, and he wasn't afraid to worship. He wasn't afraid to let the desire and the longing of his heart be directed toward the people that he loved the most. When we talk about tenderness, we're talking about the man who maybe he is a paratrooper who is jumping out of an airplane and he's dropping into battle, but the night before, he was laying on his cot writing a love letter to his wife and writing letters back to his children. He's the one who will set his alarm clock a little bit earlier so he can be with the Lord whom he loves. He's the one who's not afraid to raise his hands and worship. The one who holds his grandkids or gives them horsey rides on his back around the house. The tender man is the one who is generous with his words. He speaks blessing, words of life over his wife and his kids and his friends. He's not afraid to let his heart break. He's not afraid to let his heart break. Not afraid to offer mercy. And he crafts and he designs and he makes beautiful things. The man who exudes the tenderness of God is the one who allows his desire, his softness, his passion, his arousal to be experienced by the ones that he loves. His tenderness is turned toward love, toward those whom he loves. And this is the reflection of a God who planted a beautiful garden and then walked with Adam and Eve in that garden in the evening when the cool breezes were blowing. It's the God who is quick to offer mercy. It's Jesus who wept over Lazarus and wept over Jerusalem. It's the God who loved the world so much that he was willing to give his only begotten Son. Tenderness is what happens when men aren't afraid of their desire. Tenderness is what happens when we as men let our desire be accessible to the people that we love. So, men are designed by God to be strong and tender. And I'll tell you what, when we as men allow our strength and our tenderness to be in the world, that is an incredible, super powerful example of the nature of God to the glory of God. If we I sit around a campfire all the time with men and talk about, hey, who are the most impactful men in your life? Who are the men who just really touched you? I guarantee you, 10 times out of 10, they're going to describe a man who was so strong and so confident, but so tender. It was Grandpa who could build barns and have a farm, but would cry at night when he would tell stories. It was the man who was not afraid to have a big, strong body and exude strength, but would hold his little girl on his lap and let her feel his tenderness at the same time. When we exude both the strength and the tenderness of God, that is something that the world desires and aches for. When Ike was quoting Romans chapter 8 and saying that creation groans, all of creation is aching and groaning for the sons of God to be revealed on the earth. What we're talking about is men who are not afraid of their strength and they're not afraid of their tenderness. And let me tell you, if there is anything that evil wants to take away from men, it is your strength and your tenderness. If there's evil, would love to be able to castrate this from the lives of men. That somehow he would work to distort or to hijack or to destroy or to hide our strength and our tenderness. So I work with a lot of couples in counseling. And every time we come together, and I'm in the first couple of meetings with them, every single time there is something happening in the realm of strength or in the realm of tenderness, something in the realm of like power dynamics or authority or pride or something happening over here in the realm of intimacy and love and connectedness and emotional connection or sexual connection, intimacy, every single time. There is brokenness in the realm of strength and of tenderness, of power and of desire, because evil is after it, because he hates it, because it's the glory of God. When I talk to people who have been hurt by men, whether it's their dad or uncle or some stranger, they've been hurt by strength or a lack of it, or they've been hurt by his tenderness or a lack of it. So I just want to spend a couple minutes. How does evil do this? How is evil coming against you? Because I want to make it really clear, you already have this in you. It's in your DNA, it's in your bones. It's because you didn't make it. It's the image of God. So how is evil coming against it? Evil distorts strength with shame. Evil distorts your strength with shame. In a million different ways, big ways, tiny ways, evil from the time you're just a boy, he has been whispering in your ear, you don't have what it takes. You're not enough. You are insufficient. All the other men, all the other boys are better than you. Whatever your little strength is, it's pathetic. Like, look, they don't even see you. Dad doesn't think you're strong enough. Your brothers don't think you're strong enough. Your uncles don't think you're strong enough. You don't have what it takes. You don't belong. And evil's whispering, you're not a son. You're unwanted. You have the wrong kind of strength. You're not a football player, so you're not strong. You're not this, so you didn't make the team. You're too feminine. You're too this, you're too that, over and over again. And I promise you there's not a man in this room who has not heard the whisper of evil against your strength from the moment you were a little boy. Why? Because he wants to mix in shame and convince you that it's not enough, so you'll hide it. So you'll put it away. You're screwed up. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to prove your manhood. You're going to have to prove your strength. It all depends on you. And if everybody finds out that you're not enough, they're all going to leave. They're going to find out that you're a coward and a fake. And in the real world, the way that this happens is this. There is not a single boy who will grow into manhood today in 2025, just naturally with his sense of himself and his strength intact. Because the whole world and all of evil is positioned against the strength of God reflected in men. And so what happens is this gift of settledness in my strength, it is a gift that is bestowed on me by fathers and by other men. I want you to hear me carefully here. Boys are born. Men are made. Men become men through other men. You cannot set a boy off on a journey by himself, completely alone, and expect that he's going to come back as a good man. Men are made through the blessing and the naming and the initiation and the endorsement of other men. Every single one of us, even Jesus, I want to point out, in Matthew chapter 3, when he was being baptized by John in the river, even Jesus himself, Matthew chapter 3, verse 16, and when Jesus was baptized, immediately he went up from the water. And behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and coming to rest on him. And behold, a voice from heaven said, "This is my boy, with whom I'm well pleased." Without that voice, you're not going to find your way. Something about the design of God, we have to be welcomed into our identity as men by other men. When I was in like 6th or 7th grade, I played football, and I was super scrawny. I was tall and lanky, and I decided I would play football, and I wasn't very good at it. And so I played the positions that they put boys in that aren't super good at football. It was like cornerback, and I played wide receiver a little bit. I played a little bit of strong safety, and then so I tried my best. But I remember one time we had one of those old camcorders when I was growing up. So not like it was like one of these camcorders, not one of these camcorders, but like one of these ones. So I'm not that old. But some of you young people have no idea what I'm even talking about. So there were these camcorders, and then there are these ones. So we had one of these ones, and you could like program words into it. What you had to do was before you even started recording, you had to go and like push a bunch of buttons and like program the words. And then after you hit record, if you pushed the button, those words would pop up on the screen, and they would become a part of the recording. So you could be like, program in happy birthday, and then you go to the birthday party and start recording and push the button and happy birthday will pop up on the screen. It was super high tech, guys, super high tech. So one day I am watching back footage from one of my football games or one of my practices. My dad had been there and was recording, and I get the tape and I'm watching it back, and I'm watching me be terrible at football. And all of a sudden, these words come up on the screen, and it says, "That's my boy." And I can't tell you how much life that brought in my bones. Because as men, we got to hear it. Evil is working way too hard to convince us otherwise. And so many of us, our strength has just not been found. And so we respond by either getting really big and powerful and trying to act strong, and you get like the big lifted truck, and like, big and powerful and strong like Samson, or like Saul, who lost his mind and would throw in spears and trying to kill people. Or we get really, really small and weak. Also like Saul, who became like a little baby boy when David was being promoted as king. But every one of us along the way has needed a blessing. And so let me just say this. If you're a man in the room, if you were born male, welcome. You're in the club. You're not disqualified. Every one of you. Whether you've been told this yet or not, please hear it from me. You are as manly and masculine as you need to be. God made you fearfully and wonderfully when he knit you together in your mother's womb. And you belong in the company of men. I know we need to hear that, and we need to offer that blessing to other men in our world as well. All right, let's talk quickly about how evil comes against our tenderness. Remember, your tenderness, it's your desire, it's your drive, it's your arousal, it's your passion, it's your love, it's the blessing that you offer toward, the generosity that you offer toward those you love. 3 really quick ways that I want to share with you how evil comes and hijacks our tenderness. So when I say hijack, what I mean is he takes it and he either locks it up so it's not available, or like you would hijack an airplane, he starts pointing it in the wrong direction. One of the key ways that tenderness is hijacked in us is through lust and through porn. Men who cannot, for whatever reason, connect with their tenderness or bring their tenderness, their desire into the real world, will always turn that tenderness towards something else that's secret and fake. So when your tenderness is not available, when your desire and your delight, for whatever reason, when it's not safe or you're too ashamed or whatever, when you can't pour out your love and your tenderness toward the people that you actually love, you can't get rid of that tenderness. What happens to is it just starts turning towards something that is more secret and a little more safe and a little more contained, which is the world of lust and of pornography. And so for these men, like their tenderness gets hijacked into fantasy. And I get so angry. Today, the average age that a boy is first exposed to pornography is 11 years old. And it's probably more like 9. And so what happens is you have these boys who are growing and they're starting to ideally they're learning to take their love and their tenderness and their desire and like bring it to the world because it's a gift. Even their sexual desire, it's a gift. Bring it to the world. But what happens instead, evil comes along, hijacks it. They have this powerful encounter with beauty and with pleasure, and it gets mixed with shame. And so then all of a sudden, their desire starts to just exist in this secret, shameful place, and they would never want to take that to their wife. They would never want to take that to the world because it's so shameful and so broken. And so evil hijacks our desire and our shame, makes us feel like it's dirty. And so some of you who are in the room today, and I know you're really stuck here, hear me say that you need more help with this than you think. Because we're not, like what you need, and this isn't going to be a sermon about this, but what you actually don't just need to quit lust or quit fantasy or quit porn. I mean, yes, that's true. What you need even more than that is to learn to take your desire back and bring it to the world. To take your desire back from that place where it's lived in secret, because it's actually the glory of God, and to bring it to your wife, and to bring it to the rest of the world, because evil has kept it hidden in secret and shame, but it's a gift. It's the glory of God. And so I just want to admonish you. If you're one of the 70%, 80% of men in 2025 who find themselves stuck there, yes, work on quitting, but even more than that, get some community around you, some men around you that can help you bring your desire back into the world, into the light where it belongs. Tenderness is also hijacked by ridicule and abuse. Sometimes in our families as men, sometimes the family lore, the family legacy is that we are anti-tenderness. Like we are manly men. Right? I love to make fun of my dad, who's in the room this morning. Good to see you, Dad. But my dad will never just order a mocha at a coffee shop. It has to be a manly mocha. That's literally what he says. I want a manly mocha. And he's very secure in his masculinity. He's just joking around when he says that. But it's the idea of I can't show weakness. And in the culture of my family, if there's anything sensitive about me, if there's anything artistic about me, if there's anything kind about me, I feel like that is shamed as weakness. Some of you, especially some of you who have been sexually abused, your tenderness was consumed. Your tenderness was accosted by evil in huge ways. And it was distorted and stolen and hijacked. I tell you, evil is vicious. I just want to say, may we not be afraid of our tenderness. You're a man. And so if you're tender, it's manly tenderness. You're a man. If you make art or music, it's manly art or music. If you drink a mocha, it's a manly mocha because you're drinking it. Right? You are a man. So whatever it's masculine. You don't have to worry about it. Bring the fullness of your tenderness to the world. Finally, the way that evil comes against our tenderness, and this one these are just the ways, that, especially in the counseling office, that I see tenderness being hijacked. It's through abuse and ridicule. It's through lust and pornography. And finally, one of the key ways that I see tenderness being hijacked by evil in the counseling office when I'm with men. Sometimes tenderness is hijacked by mom. By mom. I know that there are very few women on the planet who would want to do something like this to their sons intentionally. But Moses said it and Jesus quoted it. For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and will cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Sometimes a mother, especially when marriage is bad, will fall in love with her little boy, her son. And he feels so safe. And his tenderness is so nice because I'm not getting it from my husband. And sometimes that strength and that tenderness that he's bringing feels good to you because you do need that, and it is the image of God. But every now and then, a boy will become his mother's little man, her little husband. And the flow of care, instead of going from mother tending to her son and nurturing her son, the flow of care can change then for the son needing to tend to his mom. Some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Suddenly the boy knows it's my job to make mom okay. Or when mom is sad, she feels better if she hugs me. Or when mom feels sad, she likes to talk to me about her problems. Mom likes to have me around as her little man because she needs to take something from me as her son. And this is not God's design. I'm so sorry that so many women feel the lack of the strength and tenderness that they desire. But we can't take it. You can't take it from your son. You got to tend to him. In fact, mothers, there are 3 times in your life when you're going to need to let your son go. First time is when he's born. And I got to say, I can't imagine what it would be like to experience this. But when he's born and that little child who's inside of you, safe in your womb, where you have been tending to him and nurturing him, it's time to release him from your body and then begin to nurture him in different ways. And then mom, as your son, the second time is as your son grows and is hitting adolescence and becoming a man, there's another release that happens where you allow him to join the world of men. You allow him to leave your apron where he's been clinging for 12 years and let him go. And let him go toward his father. Let him go toward the men. You got to release him again. And I'm so sorry. That must feel really hard. And then when your son finds a wife, it's time to release him again. And let him go and be held in the arms of another woman. And again, I know that must be so hard. But you've got to let him go. Because if not, then you might be consuming his tenderness and keeping him close, which would actually cause significant problem in his life and in his marriage along the way. Your desire for him is so good. And men, your tenderness and your strength are so good. Some of you need to go ahead and let go of mom as well. And let your tenderness and your desire turn toward your wife, towards your kids, towards the rest of the world, but to release her. So I want to say something to every man here. God made you to be strong. Actually, let me say it like this. God made you strong. You are. God made you tender. And evil has been coming against you from the moment you were being knit together in your mother's womb to try to hijack and distort and maim those parts of who you are. But may we as men understand that as 2 Peter chapter 1 says, his divine power has granted me all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us to his own glory and excellence, by which he has granted us his precious and very great promises. So through them, we may be partakers of the divine nature, partakers of the image of God, having escaped from the corruption that is in the world because of sinful desire. I imagine a world full of men, and I'm working to do my part so that the world may be full of men who are settled in their identity as sons and can bring their strength. Men whose desire turns toward love, not toward fake love, not toward places where it doesn't belong, but whose desire is turned fully toward their families, to their lives. That, guys, is the light of the world. Men who live like Jesus, strong, tender, the lion, the lamb, full of grace, full of truth. Jesus, who is strong enough to conquer death, flip over tables, come against religious leaders, and yet tender enough to weep, to touch the leper, to heal the sick. So as we close this morning, I want to pray over the men. I would imagine that some of you feel stirred up this morning. Like maybe even through my words this morning, you're recognizing like, oof, I feel that. That's right. I feel the way the evil has been coming against me. And I would love to pray over you and believe that whatever has to happen, whatever healing, whatever process, move toward wholeness, I want to pray that the strength and the tenderness that God made you with, that we would have more of that light of the world and not less. So if you would, if you're sitting next to a man that you know, it's okay if you don't know him, then don't feel the need to do this. But if you're sitting next to a man that you know, I just want to invite you to take your hand and put it on his shoulder or on his arm, on his leg, on his chest, if you know him. Touch the man next to you. Put your hand on him. Man, if you're sitting by yourself, put your hand on yourself. Every man in the room being identified as a man. So either hand on yourself or a hand on you from somebody else. Brother, son, father, warrior, king, lover, sage. It is good that you were born. It is good that you're here on planet Earth, man. We need more of you. So may God heal the wounds that have kept you from bringing the light of the world. And may God disrupt the patterns of sin and behavior that have been keeping you from being the light of the world. Creation groans and is waiting for you, Son of God, to be revealed on the earth. So God, we pray over every man in this room, every single one of us who hold the bodies and the chromosomes and the minds and the hearts of men. God, thank you that you invested in us your strength. God, your strength that can establish nations or tear them down. Your strength that can build churches, your strength that can save the lost, your strength in us, Lord, that is the desire, the passion, the fire of God that you put in us. Thank you so much. And God, thank you for your tenderness, Lord. Thank you for the way that you created us also to be soft and available and desirous and full of love. Evil has been coming against us, and so I pray, God, for rescue. Lord, I pray that every man here, God, that you would heal wounds, that you would undo lies of insufficiency. God, that you would put your hand on our hearts in the realm of lust and hijacking of desire, Lord, so that we might be free and our desire would be home where it belongs. God, I pray that you would set us free as your sons to the glory of God, our Father in heaven. Thank you that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Help us, oh God, to reflect you well. I pray. In Jesus' great name, amen.